Desperate girl begs paralyzed rich man for food. His shocking response will haunt you forever. In the heart of a bustling city, under the dazzling glow of neon lights, a desperate scene unfolded. A young girl with dirt-streaked cheeks stood outside an upscale restaurant. Her eyes were wide like saucers, filled with a mix of hunger and hope, as she pressed her frail hands against the gleaming glass door. Inside, laughter and clinking glasses echoed, an intoxicating contrast to her chilled silence. She could see the lavish spread of food, the aroma wafting through the air, making her stomach rumble like a beast awakened from slumber. Moments later, her gaze shifted to a table, one dominated by a man in a tailored suit, his presence demanding attention despite the wheelchair he occupied. With his father's fortune providing him comfort, he stared blankly at his half-eaten meal, a strange emptiness shadowing his otherwise grand lifestyle. She felt an inexplicable pull, as if their fates were intertwined in the depths of despair. Could this paralyzed man, drenched in privilege yet frozen in his chair, offer her anything worth holding on to? She took a deep breath, heart pounding like a drum. Timidly, she approached, a lump in her throat threatening to spill her bottled emotions. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely a ghost in this grand hall, "can you spare just a little food?" Gasps rippled through the crowded room, heads turning, eyes wide. Shock registered on every face. Was this girl truly asking for help? A dangerous silence sat heavy in the air, tension so thick you could slice it with a knife. The man looked up, and for the first time, their eyes met. Her soul seemed to reach out, begging him to see her, to understand her plight. But then, something uncomprehending flickered across his face, a combination of confusion and something darker, simmering just beneath the surface. Seconds ticked by, the din of the restaurant faded, replaced by a gripping anticipation. What would he do? Would he turn her away, so coldly dismissive, or could there be an unexpected kindness in his heart? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The man's lips parted, and silence electrified the space. His response slipped out a single word, weighted and brimming with an eerie finality that echoed around the room: no. The gasp that followed could be shattered glass. Expressions of disbelief splattered across faces, brows furrowed, whispers of dismay and judgment flying like arrows. The girl recoiled as if struck, her fragile heart shattering, while the rich man remained unfazed, simply spinning his fork in circles, chasing the remnants of his meal, oblivious to his impact. But there was something in his eyes, an unrecognizable nuance that seemed to dance between detachment and a flicker of regret. Before the crowd could fully register the scene, she turned and fled. Was this rejection crushing her spirit, or could it be the spark she needed to ignite a greater battle for dignity? The restaurant buzzed with murmurs, opinions bouncing around like ping-pong balls. Off in the corner, a shadowy figure observed, a sly grin playing on their lips as they watched the drama unfold. Who were they? What secrets lingered in the depths of this story just waiting to be unraveled? As the girl disappeared into the city's maw, one thing was clear: her desperate plea had ignited something deeper, something that would change everything. What would happen next? Where would her path lead? Would she find strength among the shadows, or would despair swallow her whole? The questions hung in the air, heavy with anticipation and the promise of what was yet to come. The city swallowed her whole. The vibrant lights flickered and blurred into a chaotic wash of color as she ran, tears streaming down her cheeks. The echoes of laughter and clinking cutlery faded behind her, ghostly reminders of a life she felt a million miles away from. Her heart raced, each beat a painful thud reminding her of the reality that crowded around her like a thick fog. Each step was a question burning in her mind. What now? Across the street, a warm glow from a small diner caught her eye. It was nothing fancy, just a simple place where ordinary folks gather to eat, share stories, and soak in fleeting moments of joy. She hesitated for a moment, the memory of the man's dismissive "no" still stinging like a fresh wound. But hunger clawed at her insides like a feral animal, and she crossed the street without thinking. Inside, the smell of greasy fries and sizzling burgers wrapped around her like a blanket. The diner hummed with life, laughter spilled over the edges of booths, and the cheerful chatter painted a wholly different picture from the upscale restaurant. The waitress, a 30-something woman with kind eyes, glanced up and paused mid-sentence as she caught sight of the girl. Without a word, the young girl slid into a booth, her eyes scanning the menu but her mind focused on something else entirely, the soft murmurs that arose from a nearby table. "Can you believe that?" one man said, shaking his head in disbelief. "That girl just stood there, asking for food like it was her right. Can you imagine? She needs to learn you can't just go begging in the middle of a restaurant," the other replied with a smirk. The girl's heart twisted in her chest, an ugly knot of shame and anger. She couldn't listen anymore. Knowing she couldn't afford a meal, she waited for her moment. As the waitress approached with a glass of water, her voice trembled slightly. Do you have any leftover food?" The kind eyes softened, and the waitress leaned in, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "I can see you need it more than anyone else here. Give me a minute." Relief washed over the girl, a gentle tide easing her earlier despair. Just as hope flickered in her heart, the door swung open with a loud creak, drawing the attention of everyone inside. The figure that stepped in was tall, cloaked in an air of authority that turned heads. It took her a moment to recognize him, the rich man from the restaurant that he wheeled himself in, his presence commanding yet strangely vulnerable. The murmur that swirled around the diner spoke of surprise, judgment, and curiosity. The girl's heart raced again. Why was he here? Was he searching for her? A pot of boiling dread bubbled in her stomach, but then, their eyes met once again, locking on like magnets caught in a tension-filled silence. What was he doing here? The energy in the room shifted, turning from casual chatter to an intense tableau of unspoken questions. Her heart threatened to leap out of her chest as he approached. Was he looking for redemption? Or was he just here to gawk? Sweat trickled down her back, and she couldn't breathe. As he neared, the air crackled between them, thickening with possibility. Suddenly, he stopped a few paces away, staring deep into her eyes. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low but resonant, like thunder nearing a storm. A knot tightened in her throat. How did he know? More importantly, what would he do next? The girl prepared for the worst as he lowered his gaze. What kind of revelation was waiting just beyond the silence? Would this be another rejection? Would the chaos of his life spill over into hers in ways she couldn't predict? The din of forks clattering and hushed whispers blurred into a chilling backdrop. "Why did you ask me?" His question seemed to slice through the tension, leaving the air electric with unanswered queries. Suddenly, the world around them faded, leaving only the gravity of that moment. Would she dare to answer? The question hung heavy, and the din of the diner faded to an eerie silence once more. Would her answer change everything? Or would it simply seal her fate? The tension was palpable, each heartbeat stretching the moment thin with suspense. Her breath hitched in her throat as the weight of his question settled on her shoulders like a storm cloud. Would she tell him the truth? Did it even matter what she said? All eyes were on her, drawing her into the circular drama of judgment and intrigue. Just the words clawed their way out, but her voice barely rose above a whisper. The warmth of the room faded as the gaze of the judge, this man who had everything, threatened to expose her very essence. The waitress returned with a plate piled high with leftover fries and a half-eaten burger. "Here you go, sweetie," she said softly, just loud enough to shatter the tension. The girl's eyes flickered with a sudden spark of gratitude before it was overshadowed by dread. Would the man stop her from eating? He glanced at the food, then back to her, a flicker of something indefinable passing through his eyes. She expected scorn. Instead, his look shifted to something closer to pity. "You think this is what you deserve?" just scraps. You shouldn't ask for the leftovers of people who don't care. The words stung like a slap. She could feel the blood rush to her cheeks, a blush fueled by a mixture of embarrassment and righteous anger. I'm not asking for scraps. I'm asking for a chance to live, she shot back, surprising herself with her own boldness. The diner fell silent. Forks hovered mid-bite, and eyes widened as whispers floated around like leaves in the wind. People were leaning forward in their booths, eating up the drama unfolding. Watching. Judging. For a moment, she thought she saw a hint of a smile tug at the corners of his mouth. Living isn't asking for charity. It's taking what you deserve, he replied, and there was an intensity about him now. A force that drew her in despite the chaos swelling around them. What do you suggest then? She countered, emboldened by the shift in his tone. How do I take back what's been stripped from me? The rich man's expression hardened, and for the first time, she saw the man behind the facade, the pain etched in his brow, a story untold resting in his gaze. You might not like the answer, he said darkly. Try me, she fired back, her head held high. The fire in her belly felt good, like a flicker of hope in the shadowy corners of despair. Meet me at 8, he said abruptly, his voice dropping to a near whisper, only audible to her. There's more here than you realize. But it won't be easy. It was as if the air had thickened, tension wrapping them in an invisible cocoon of fate. She stared at him, caught in the whirlpool of uncertainty and curiosity. What could possibly await her with this man? And more importantly, what price would she have to pay? The door swung open again, briefly liberating the diner from its spell, but it closed just as quickly. Shamed laughter and the sound of chairs scraping back broke the unnatural hush. She looked around, realizing the moment was slipping away. But she had an answer, a chance at something beyond frying pans and leftovers. How do I know you're not just playing games? She challenged, needing something tangible, a lifeline sinking into her ocean of doubts. His deep sigh was filled with a strange mix of resolve and defeat. You'll have to trust me. Trust? So simple, yet so horrifically complex. The girl glanced down at her meal, so close yet so distant. The burning questions battled with a flickering thread of hope. Okay, she breathed, then added, I'll be there. As he pushed his chair back and wheeled away, the atmosphere of the diner shifted again. She inhaled deeply, the scent of fries clinging to her like a lifeline. Instinctively, she knew this decision would carve her path, but as he disappeared through the door, doubt whispered at her, venomous and sly. What had she just committed to? With a trembling hand, she picked up a fry, and just before taking a bite, she wondered whether that evening would change everything or leave her standing in shadows deeper than before. In that moment of stillness, one thing was clear, the night was pregnant with possibilities. When the clock struck 8, would she embrace whatever came next? Or would she unravel in the face of it? Her heart raced, uncertainty twisting deep inside her. A chilling realization dawned, this was just the beginning. The clock ticked relentlessly, each second a reminder of the promise she had made, tightening the knot of anxiety in her stomach. 8 o'clock loomed like a heavy weight upon her. As she finished her meager meal, the remnants of fries and the cold burger lingering on her plate testified to her hunger, not just for food, but for something more profound. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of deep orange and purple. The streetlights flickered to life, illuminating her path like beacons leading to an uncertain destiny. She pushed herself up, the diner's clamor fading as the door swung shut behind her. Fresh air wrapped around her, but it did little to ease the tightness in her chest. What would she find at the appointed meeting? Would he outline a plan for change, or was this all a game crafted by a wealthy man seeking to manipulate her desperation? Doubt clawed at her, but she had chosen this path. She couldn't turn back now. The rendezvous point was a small park just beyond the diner. A wide oak tree stood sentinel, its gnarled branches reaching for the sky. She arrived early, leaning against the rough bark, heart pounding with each passing moment. Shadows danced around her as the wind rustled the leaves, then came the sound of wheels on gravel, a low hum that grew louder. She looked up, her pulse quickening as he rounded the corner in his wheelchair. A dark silhouette against the fading light, he seemed larger than life, his presence asserting power even in his limitation. "Right on time," he said, allowing a hint of amusement to play at the corner of his mouth. "That's a good sign." She swallowed the fear creeping up her throat. "You mentioned you had answers," she replied, trying to keep her tone steady. "What do you want from me?" The man gestured toward a bench, inviting her to sit. She hesitated but took the place beside him, the space between them thick with questions unasked. "First," he began, "I need to know what you're willing to sacrifice for what you want." Her breath hitched again, the weight of his words settling like lead in her gut. Sacrifice? Reality lit a fire within her. She had spent too long enduring others' whispers and judgments. "I want my life back," she stated, voice unwavering. "What's the price?" He stared at her, piercing, as if assessing her very soul. "The world isn't kind. It takes, yes, but it also rewards the bold. Are you ready to step into that light, knowing the darkness that supports it?" She clenched her fists, confused. "What are you saying? Speak plainly." "Fine. You need to learn to fight," he said bluntly. "And I can teach you. In return you'll owe me a favor." The air around them grew thick, and her mind raced with the implications. The urgency of the offer sent chills down her spine. "What kind of favor?" He leaned in closer, determination etched across his features. "One that could change everything for you. But you need to understand you may have to break the rules to win the game." Her instinct screamed at her to walk away, but nothing about her life thus far had felt like living. "I'll do it," she declared, surprising even herself. "Just tell me what I have to do." A glimmer of satisfaction sparked in his eyes, then faded as he glanced past her shoulder. "There's much to discuss, but we can't linger here. Are you prepared for what lies ahead?" Moments hung between them, heavy with the weight of promises unspoken. She felt a mix of anxiety and fierce hope, every fiber of her being resounding with the decision she had made. The stakes were higher than she had ever played for before. "I am," she replied, her voice firm but laced with uncertainty. "Whatever it takes." "Good," he said with a steely smile. "Then let us begin." As they rolled away from the park, the echoes of the past clung to her like a fog. A new chapter unfurled, thick with possibilities and consequences. But as the night deepened, one question gnawed at her: could she truly embrace the light without being consumed by the darkness lurking in its shadows? With every turn they took, the chill of uncertainty wrapped around her, tightening its grip. How far would she have to go to reclaim her life? As the wheels of his chair glided along the pavement, she felt a mix of exhilaration and fear running through her veins. The night, alive with sounds of distant laughter and the rustle of leaves, surrounded them as he led her through a side street, away from the memories of her mundane life. She couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead and what it would demand of her. "You need to understand something," he said, breaking the silence. "Learning to fight isn't just about physical combat. It's about battling your own fears and doubts." His eyes burned with intensity, pulling her deeper into his world. "You may not like what you find." "What do you mean?" she asked, looking straight ahead, resolute yet anxious that he paused, perhaps gauging the weight of his next words. "Everyone carries a mask. Whether you're in the boardroom or the back alley, you play a role. But beneath it all is a raw truth, your true self. You will need to confront her." The truth sat heavy in her gut. She had been running from her truth for so long, a constant struggle of not being enough. If he could teach her how to embrace it, would she finally be free? They arrived at a nondescript warehouse, its exterior unassuming yet foreboding. He stopped at the entrance, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead creating an almost eerie ambience. "This is where it begins," he said. That a knot tightened in her throat. The anticipation of change danced in her chest, but so did fear of what was to unfold. What's inside? She finally dared to ask. Pain and growth. The perfect blend. He wheeled himself in, leaving her no choice but to follow, heart pounding. Inside, the sound of fists meeting leather echoed through the open space. The air was thick with sweat and determination. Groups of people trained, some throwing punches while others grappled. The intensity shined through their movements, every blink of the eye, every grunted breath spoke volumes. Welcome to the hub of rebels, he announced, and she felt the weight of the room shift as eyes turned toward her. The glare stung, a mixture of curiosity and judgment. She was an outsider stepping into an unknown world. Don't flinch, he whispered, his tone sharp. They can smell fear. I'm not afraid, she protested, though her legs trembled slightly as she stepped further into the room. Prove it. His gaze commanded attention. Show them you belong. She was not sure what that meant, but the challenge ignited a spark within her. She couldn't walk away now. The faces surrounding her, each marked by their own stories of struggle, fueled her resolve. She took a deep breath, all doubts washed away in that moment as she approached a heavy bag hanging in the corner. With a hard kick, she sent it swinging, the sound reverberating in the silence that fell over the room. Satisfied gazes scrutinized her. She was ready for this, or so she thought. Her heart raced faster, each beat echoing louder than the last. It was true, she felt a rush, but there was still a lingering fear that nipped at her heels. The realization struck, it wasn't just about physical strength, it was about confronting her reality and the choices that had led her here. Good start, he remarked, just loud enough for her to hear. But when they come at you, will you fight back? Before she could answer, a tall figure approached, muscles defined and eyes unreadable. You really think you can keep up? He taunted, poking at her resolve. I didn't come here to fail, she shot back, anger fueling her determination. She needed to prove not just to him but to herself that she was more than the shadows of her past. Then show me, he challenged, stepping into the ring of fight. As she squared up, adrenaline surged through her veins. This was no longer just about a favor or reclaiming her life, it was about proving her worth and battling the parts of herself that had held her captive for too long. But as fists flew and adrenaline peaked, a thought gripped her heart. What if the cost of winning became more than she could bear? The challenge loomed before her, a fight not just against her opponent, but against the darkness lurking within. Would she be victorious, or would this plunge into the depths and snare her further? In this new realm of power and pain, every moment could tip the scales. Every strike counted, and with each round that followed, the stakes became life or death. What had she truly signed up for? The answer was waiting, just beyond the next blow. She lunged, fists up, heart racing. The tall man was a wall, solid and unsettling. Each punch he threw felt like a storm, hitting her not just in the body, but rattling her very soul. She dodged, barely sweating, breathless, grappling with her own fear as much as she was with him. This was supposed to be a reminder that she was strong, that she could fight. Yet here she was, feeling more vulnerable than ever. Come on! He yelled, voice booming, each word an echo in her mind. You've got to fight like your life depends on it. With each swing of his powerful arm, she felt her doubts tighten around her throat like a noose. She remembered the long nights spent wondering if she was brave enough to take action in her own life, the endless cycle of settling for less. And here she was, exposed and stripped of pretense, still doubting if she had what it took to fight not just against him, but against those memories. Suddenly, she retaliated with a right hook that surprised even her. It landed against his side, a muffled thud, and he staggered back just a breath. It was electric, she felt a rush. Maybe there was power inside her, after all. A few members of the audience exchanged glances, eyebrows raised, murmurs spreading like wildfire. She could see it in their expressions, shocked, impressed. For a fleeting moment, she breathed. But then he charged back, unfazed, his eyes blazing with intensity. He was a predator, and she was prey. Panic skittered in her gut. It was now or never. She had to dig deeper. Shoving her fears aside, she surged forward, ready to reclaim not just this fight, but all the battles for her identity. "Remember your truth," he shouted, matching her energy. The words echoed ominously, clinging to the raw air. What truth? What truth would that be? The truth of her failures? The truth that she'd hidden from for so long? She couldn't let those thoughts drown her now. She shot out a combination 1, 2, 3. The punches landed stronger than before, but doubt rushed back. And was it enough? And then, just as she felt like she was catching a rhythm, he landed a blow to her stomach. She gasped, the air knocked from her lungs, collapsing like a deflated balloon. Pain flared, exquisite and terrifying, as she crumpled to the floor. Everything went silent, the room's energy pulsing in palpable tension. She couldn't breathe, panic crawling up her throat. This was the grip of failure. Hadn't they told her? Everyone falls. It's what you do next that matters. But she was still on the floor, wheezing, the fight slipping away. Get up. He barked, urgency carving lines in his face. Slowly, she pushed herself up, every inch jolting pain through her body. She looked into his eyes, a mix of aggression and something softer, the flicker of encouragement. In that moment, she realized this wasn't just a fight, it was a revelation. The truth wasn't about losing or winning, it was about rising when life tried to stomp you down. As she wiped the sweat mixed with tears from her face, a new flame ignited inside. The lingering doubts would not win, from within her grew determination. She could conquer the fight. She would not allow shame to keep her on the ground, yet even as she stood up, ready to take another swing, a voice from the back shouted, "Does she know what happens next? Does she even know who she's up against?" She froze, breath caught in her throat. Every face in the room turned, and in that instant, a new realization hit her like a punch to the gut. The challenge was about more than just the man in front of her. It was about the hierarchy of this place, the fights she didn't yet understand, the battles that extended beyond the room. Would she summon the courage to challenge more than just him? Would she be ready for what lay ahead? As the bell rang for another round, a thought slinked into her mind, wrapping itself tightly around her heart. Did she even want to know who or what she was truly up against? She barely heard the bell over the roaring in her ears. Every pulse of adrenaline rushed through her body. Her muscles screamed at her, crying out from the blows, from the impact of fleeting confidence slipping away. Yet there she was, standing awkwardly in that circle, embodying a mix of defiance and fear. The audience shifted again, their voices a dull roar overlapping with the thumping of her heart. She caught snippets of their conversations, whispers of expectation, taunts, and disbelief. "She has no idea what's coming," one voice said, chilling her to the core. But she couldn't dwell on them. This was her moment. The tall man before her was no longer just an opponent, he was a symbol of her struggle, of every moment she had ever felt inferior. And just like that, the fear began to morph into something else, fury. It bubbled up inside, urging her to strike first and strike hard. The man squared up, eyes narrowing. He had recalibrated after that fleeting moment of surprise, he was ready to charge again. But she had learned something in those seconds on the floor. She had nothing to lose. With newfound determination, she launched herself forward, fists flying like arrows, precision replacing hesitance. A sharp jab cut through the air, aimed for his face. He deflected it easily, but the force of her spirit remained unyielding. She moved like lightning, quick and unpredictable, suddenly darting past his guard, landing another hit, a solid right to his ribs that drew a fierce grunt from him. Somewhere in the back, the murmurs intensified. Where did this come from? Is she actually holding her own? The energy shifted in the room, a crackle of disbelief hung in the air. She didn't just want to prove herself, she needed to. Every punch carried weight, revealing pieces of who she was beneath the scars and the fear. With each connection, she felt less like prey and more like a fighter. She could almost taste the victory. However, it was more than just beating him, it was about conquering herself, but her adrenaline-fueled high couldn't mask the reality of her opponent. He was still a wall and immovable force. No sooner had she regained her footing than he retaliated, unleashing a barrage of punches, trapping her again in the ferocity of his power. Each blow felt like an earthquake, as if the ground beneath her was crumbling away. It was during that struggle that she caught a glimpse of the observers, faces lit with excitement, but also something darker: apprehension. They weren't just watching a fight, they were witnessing a ritual, a trial with stakes higher than she had ever imagined. Does she know what she is getting into? Another voice echoed, shattering her focus. It was then that she realized it wasn't merely about defeating him. The deeper implication loomed behind every shadow in that room. An underground world shrouded in mystery, challenges that could lead to something more than just physical contests. What did the audience really know about this place? The air felt electric with secrets buried deep. Desperation clawed at her. She could feel the weight of their stares, each look a crossroad that made the air heavier. Cooperate with this fight, or dare to disrupt the status quo, to question everything. Did she have the fortitude to face not just him, but whatever lay behind those unveiled walls? With a deep breath fueled by anger and purpose, she readied herself for another round. She had to decide. Would she follow the course laid out before her, or would she challenge everything? The bell chimed again, signaling not just another round, but a pivotal moment. And as the man's fierce eyes locked onto hers, a chilling realization washed over her. Perhaps this fight was only a fraction of what lay ahead, and deeper, darker forces awaited her challenge. What were the implications of victory or defeat in this labyrinth of combat? The bell rang, slicing through the tension like a knife. The man, towering and ferocious, charged. He was a tempest, a whirlwind of fists and relentless power, and in an instant, the room exploded into chaos. She knew she had to hold her ground or be swept away in his storm. The first punch landed like a meteor, connecting with her shoulder and sending shockwaves through her body. Air rushed from her lungs, but she wouldn't back down. Digging her heels in, she pivoted, barely dodging another strike, which whizzed past her cheek like a whispered threat. She could feel the adrenaline surging, sharpening her focus. No more hesitation. She weaved and bobbed, the rhythm of her body syncing with the fight. It was primal, raw, the echo of her ancestors trembling in her bones. Each moment carried the weight of history, of countless others who had faced the same battle, the same reckoning. The audience roared, their voices bled into one another, a living entity. She is still standing. What the hell? Their shouts fueled her, igniting that fire inside her gut. But the heavy eyes of the spectators brought another element, a pressure that squeezed her chest. They wanted a performance, some blood to spill, some chaos to relish. With surprising agility, she sidestepped his heavy jab, then struck back, feeling the satisfaction of her fist connecting with his jaw. The crowd gasped collectively, stunned by the impact. He staggered, and for that fleeting moment, she felt invincible. Is she gonna do this? Someone muttered in disbelief nearby, and a thrill coursed through her. But even amidst the cheers, doubt lurked, whispering unholy truths into her ear. He roared back, an animal trapped in a ring of fire. He unleashed a fury of strikes, each one faster than the last. She blocked and dodged, limbs pushed to their limits, muscles taut with exertion. Each blow reminded her of the stakes hanging over this arena, not just victory here, but stepping into a world where pain was currency. As they danced on the edge of defeat and triumph, something dark clicked into place. She couldn't ignore it. The shadowy figures around the ring observed with calculating eyes. They were not merely patrons, they were part of something much bigger. Their enthusiasm felt predatory, and that realization made her heart race in a different way. She wasn't just in a fight, she was part of a spectacle, a pawn in a game much larger than herself. What lay at the end of this bout? Was it glory? An escape from her past? Or was it a trap? The uncertainty twisted her stomach like a knife. Another hit jarred her senses, and she stumbled back, pain radiating through her body. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others cursing. But she couldn't afford to listen to them. She had to focus. What did she truly want? As he advanced, she saw the fury in his eyes, but also something flickering behind that ferocity, fear. Suddenly, time slowed as everything came into focus. The bell had faded, the world outside them ceased to exist. She wasn't just fighting him, she was fighting a system, a belief that had held her captive for too long. She clenched her fists, feeling the fight turn sacred. The next decision wasn't just about her. Heads turned, breaths held, lives were perched in that moment. Did she want to belong to this chaos, or would she carve her own way? As she lifted her chin, a sudden stillness swept over the arena. Their anticipation hung thick. What would she do next? Would she rise to the challenge or curl beneath it? A moment of clarity hit her. She was ready to disrupt not only this fight but everything that followed. But before she could step into that sharp light of determination, the toll of the night rang within her. The fight had more eyes on it now, and she could feel their power pressing down on her. And with that realization looming, she knew, the next round was about to reveal what awaited her in this labyrinth of blood and secrets. The bell clanged again, echoing through the charged atmosphere, cutting through the charged silence like a slap. She tightened her grip. The weight of the crowd's gaze felt like lead on her shoulders. She inhaled sharply, drawing strength from the smell of sweat and blood, a cocktail of primal fear and adrenaline that enveloped her. Her opponent advanced, eyes wild, fueled by a ravenous hunger for dominance. He lunged at her with ferocity again, muscles coiling and releasing like springs ready to snap. She braced herself, but instinct drove her to lean back just far enough to evade his grasp. It was a dance, each move a pulse, each blow a heartbeat. "Come on!" someone shouted. The demand was thick with expectation. They wanted a show, a spectacle that blurred the lines of brutality and sport. And with every swing, she felt the weight of that expectation growing heavier. This time, when his fist came, she wasn't just defending. She was calculating, ready to pounce not just for herself, but for the truth hiding beneath the surface. She feigned left and then struck right. The hit landed clean against his ribs. He grunted, the force of it sending him stumbling back a step. The crowd's reaction was electric, a wave rolling through the spectators that heightened her resolve. But the roar faded for an instant, replaced by the sound of her own heartbeat, thrumming in her ears. Yet, behind the cheering, she sensed something deeper, something lurking in the corners of the room. Shadows twitched like restless spirits, and she caught sight of glances exchanged among them. What was it about this fight that drew them in? What were they truly watching? Her skin prickled with the chilling notion that she might not just be fighting for glory. The adrenaline coursing through her veins took on a bitter edge as the realization sank in. Eyes like predators, they were hunting for something raw, something beyond mere victory. They wanted to see her pushed to the brink, to witness how far she would bend before breaking. That he regained his footing, roaring madly as he charged again. Determination flashed in his eyes, but beneath it the flicker of fear she had seen before lingered. It made her question, what was he truly afraid of? Not just her punches, but the consequences of losing. The crowd craved blood but needed a resolution, and in that instant, she decided she would become more than the fighter today. She would be the catalyst. "Don't fight the system," she muttered under her breath. Was it directed at him or at herself? She pressed forward, unyielding. As she weaved around his wild hits, she concentrated on building her own rhythm. The world seemed to pulse slower, each movement dictated by a force much larger than a mere knockout. The bell chimed again, but its sound was almost muffled now, consumed by adrenaline and urgency. She volleyed back against his attacks with her own, a flurry of jabs and lightning-fast hooks. She was carving out space, creating her own narrative amid the chaos. Then, he stumbled again, the realization dawning on her that she was winning. The taste of hope mingled with fear in her chest. But victory wasn't sweet. It was bitter, tinged with the knowledge of what lay ahead. The spectators were like wolves waiting, yearning for a fall. "Finish him!" A voice shouted from the back, and that single word ignited something in her. It fueled the fight in her not just to win but to dismantle the very structure that held her captive. Victory loomed ahead, but on the horizon lay darkness. She realized she had a choice: take him down and risk becoming just another story for the masses, or rise above and transform the tide of expectations. One last strike could determine much more than this fight. Breathing deeply, she steadied herself. The next blow would resonate beyond this ring, reshaping everything she believed, and then, she saw the flicker of recognition in his eyes. Something deeper, and just below the surface, she sensed a shared truth. But before she could unpack it, a figure moved in the shadows, drawing closer, a silhouette cloaked in dark intentions. Who were they? And would they threaten the fragile balance of her fight? Her breath quickened as the figure emerged from the shadows, a chill racing down her spine. Plunging deeper into the intensity of the fight, she felt a rush of adrenaline that stood against the creeping dread. The moment was electric, the air thick with suspense. The crowd murmured in anticipation, unaware of the true nature of the impending threat. That as the dark silhouette stepped into the light, she recognized him, a shadowy figure she'd seen before, lurking in the periphery of her life. He was no mere spectator, he was part of this underground world, pulling strings and weaving chaos. Intimidation rolled off him in waves, a reminder that the stakes were higher than ever. She stole a glance at her opponent, who also seemed to sense the change in the atmosphere. Fear shrouded them both as they took in the newcomer. "Fight like your life depends on it," the dark figure shouted above the crowd, his voice slicing through the noise with razor-like precision. "Show them what you're truly made of, or watch your world collapse." How had this turned into the life of a pawn? The weight of expectation felt like a chain deterring her from breaking free. She hardened her resolve, refusing to give in. She wouldn't allow herself to become something they could toy with. Her gaze flickered back to her opponent, now caught in a battle of their own, a struggle against haunting pasts as much as against one another. His eyes, normally fierce, reflected vulnerability that struck her deep. In that shared moment, she felt a surge of understanding. They were both trapped in a cycle of power and pain, the crowd hungry for blood without grasping the real story. Both had struggles that mirrored each other. "Let us end this," she muttered, the words more a mantra than a challenge. Without hesitation, she charged. Time slowed as she channeled every ounce of energy into each punch, landing with precision, her cheeks flushed and breath quickening, igniting the fire she'd found in herself. The crowd gasped collectively when she dodged a swing aimed at her head, connecting with a powerful hook to his ribs that sent him staggering back. The energy in the room shifted, murmurs rising like a collective tide. She felt emboldened, drawing strength from her connection to him and the swirling energy surrounding them, but her opponent was resilient. He countered, his strikes landing hard, and again she felt the pain of his fists connect with her body, each jolt reminding her of the cost of their struggle. It was an exhausting game of give and take, but she'd come too far to buckle now. She pushed through the pain, feeling the eyes of the audience avidly watching her, waiting for a sign of weakness, a cue to jump onto whatever they craved. She wouldn't let them dictate how her story would end. With renewed fervor, she fought back, landing quick jabs while the dark figure watched, his anticipation almost palpable. She could feel him delighting in the struggle of it all. "You are more than a pawn," she thought, urging herself onward. Grit and determination surged in her blood. They could either break her or forge her into something stronger, and then it happened. Amid the roar and the tumult, clarity washed over her. This wasn't merely about winning, it was about reclaiming herself, her dignity, and fighting against a world so eager to strip it away. The final blow came swift and deliberate. She swung wide, tapping into her instincts, and with a resolute force, struck him cleanly on the jaw. In an instant, his head snapped back, shock colored his features as he fell to the ground, collapsing like a marionette with its strings cut. Silence fell. The air bristled with disbelief, the crowd frozen in sheer shock. Victory coursed through her veins, adrenaline melding into an uncanny sense of triumph and fragility. She had taken back not just the fight but a piece of her life as well. But the dark figure, unfazed, stepped forward, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "Bravo," he sneered. "But this was merely a match. The game has only just begun." He turned to the crowd, raising his voice. Witness the birth of a fighter, yes. But remember, every battle has its price. Panic threatened to creep in once more. The energy shifted, the spectators now left buzzing with questions, excitement replacing the previous disbelief. She was restless among them, her pulse pounding against her skull as realization struck like lightning. There was no escaping this world now. She had stepped into the arena of consequences, and though she stood proud and victorious today, darkness lurked just beyond the light, a reminder that battles could morph into a war, but she had awakened a fire inside her, one that would not be doused easily. "I'll figure this out," she whispered under her breath, squared her shoulders, and made her way back through the crowd. She was no longer just a girl fighting for survival, she was a force ignited by the promise of defiance and hope, and as she moved past the shadows and into the uncertain light, one thought persisted. No matter the consequence, she would not go quietly into that night. She would fight against the darkness, against the odds, and for the life waiting to be claimed on the other side. Every ending is a new beginning. Now, to you, my amazing viewers. It's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to never miss our next exclusive stories that will captivate your hearts and minds. Smash that like button now to give our video the boost it deserves and feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this exhilarating conclusion. What do you think lies ahead for our fighter? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible culmination. Your support means everything to us, and only true fans understand the importance of standing together. Let us keep this amazing community thriving.